they can't vote in that precinct, and you interact with them outside of the precinct in the 100-foot barrier, there are a couple things that you can do. You can get on your smartphone, and there are two different links to places where you can look up people's voter registration information, and you get identifying information from them and look up whether they're registered or not. On all of the materials that we submitted to you, there's also a 188 number, which is an election protection number, where you can call election protection with the voter next to you and relay their identifying information, and they can get on the computer for you and look up, is the person registered or not. We also provided links to Am I Correct polling precinct. So again, you can get on your smartphone with the voter and you can look up with their identifying information if they're in the right precinct, or you can call 188, which is the number on all of these materials, your contact sheet, the infographic and comic materials, and you can ask them to look up people's voter information to make sure that they're voting, that they're in the right place. The goal is to make sure that people vote in the correct place, because if they don't, then they're going to be casting provisional ballots, and as we all know, for the most part, those don't count. Now, they will count to certify the results of the election, and they could count in a very close race, but our goal, again, is to make sure that everyone casts a regular ballot on election day, so we want them to go to the correct polling precinct. Now, if all else fails, we do want people to exercise the right to vote, and so they can cast a provisional ballot. If you get a sense that they're unwilling to go to their correct polling precinct, or maybe they have a work obligation where they can't drive to where they're actually supposed to be, you can offer that they can vote provisionally, or you should suggest that they go to where they're supposed to be. Are there any questions so far?
No, we folks that are trying to go to any voting location.
So we have folks here in Galveston where they have voting centers, and you, as a registered voter, you could go basically anywhere to vote. That's not going to be the same reality in other parts of Texas, but for Galveston, that's exactly right. But in Houston, right, if you are assigned to a precinct, you should go to your assigned precinct, and that's on your voter registration card. Again, that's on the lookup. If you encounter a voter who moved within the same precinct, they should be able to go to the precinct that they've been going to, whether that's their old/new precinct, because they're basically they moved around the corner, so they're still assigned to the same precinct. If you have moved to a different precinct, but you're in the same county, you should go to your old precinct, but they're going to ask you, the voter, to sign an affidavit to basically verify your new residence and verify that you are who you say you are. If you are someone who moved out of the county and you did not re-register at your new address, unfortunately, you cannot vote because you would have had to re-register with your correct address before the registration deadline, which I believe was October 11th. So in that PowerPoint that I provided to you, there are those three scenarios. If you have any questions about where people should vote, I recommend that you call the 188 number that's on these materials, or you get on your smartphone and look up where people are supposed to be. And again, direct them to where they're supposed to be, because that is where they're going to get the ballot that will count. Yes.
Leon Phillips, Galveston Coalition for Justice. You mentioned provisional ballots. The ballot, the form that you just talked about, is it the same as a provisional ballot? Because I've watched them open provisional ballots, and what's not being told to the individual is whatever your reason for doing the provisional ballot, you have until the day that they open those up to come and give that reason, justification.
So that's a great question. For anyone who you interact with who has cast a provisional ballot, you should ask them, did they tell you inside what you can do to cure, what we deem cure that provisional ballot? It's a 6-day window after the election where you can go to the Board of Elections and cure it by showing the proper ID, by showing whatever documentation you need to get that to get that vote counted. So if you interact with a voter and they went inside and They unfortunately had to cast a provisional ballot for whatever reason, and I'll talk about some of the circumstances for that. You want to say, did they give you information about how you're supposed to get that, counted, corrected within the 6-day window? And they're obliged to give you, to give the voter information about where to go, what number to call to get information, the length of time that they have. So you want to also, again, catch voters in the 100-foot barrier and make sure that they have all that they need by the time they walk away from the polling precinct. One thing that's included in this PowerPoint is also information about people who show up to vote, but they have a felony conviction. It's important to us at the Legal Defense Fund. There are more than 6 million people who cannot vote because of a felony conviction. For the most part, you just want to document that. People would have had to register, and they would know whether they're registered, either by helping them look it up, or by them having received a voter registration card. So that's not going to be an issue that's that you can resolve on election day, but it's something that we would like to be aware of as well.
What's the length of time? From the time you fulfilled your obligations to the state, what's the length of time that you can go before you can register to vote?
So I will have to circle back with you about that. I know you have to.
Once you've been released from probation or on parole, you can go. So the next day when you're released from
To
probation,
re-register.
You can re-register after that.
But you would have had to register by October 11th of this year to be able to vote in this election. So thank you for that.
What if you're in one of those areas where you can register the day of the election?
We don't have that in Texas.
You don't have it in Texas.
So same day registration is something North Carolina or other places have, but we don't have that here. You would have had to register by October 11th. So talking about this photo ID, we've been monitoring early voting. We've seen a lot of issues with photo ID. Can I just ask, is there anyone on the phone who has a question before we move to this photo ID section?
You all participants participate by the non-percentage of tabs windows where you open it up to questions.
So,
Becoming increasingly unclear over the other person throughout the year.
yeah, so I just reiterate, if there's anyone who is streaming or who is dialed in and who has now muted, please do so that everyone on the phone, people are calling from Dallas and Fort Worth, they're calling from Houston, so we have folks from all over the state, and we want to make sure everyone hears. So please mute. So photo ID. There are 7 forms of photo ID. All of the comments.
You muted the speaker side and not the participant side.
How do I?
We couldn't hear you for a couple seconds there, 50 seconds.
Okay, is this better now?
Yeah, you're back. Unfortunately, the participant who is on the phone is still there. It's out of you. Please continue.
I really urge those who are on the phone, if you could please mute yourself. I'm very sorry if it's interfering with folks on the phone. So the photo IDs, there's 7 forms of photo ID that